U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says U.S.-India relations are already beginning to reach new heights. He was speaking at a joint news conference with Indian Foreign Affairs Minister Subrahmanyam Jaishankar.
The pair met this afternoon amid rising trade tensions and ahead of the G20 summit where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump are expected to meet.
Now, the pair downplayed U.S.-India trade tensions, emphasizing that all relationships are a work in progress, both sides expressing confidence in resolving the trade bottleneck.
Friends are bound to have disagreements. The United States has been clear we seek greater market access and the removal of trade barriers in our economic relationship. And today I address these differences in the spirit of friendship, and I think that the two of us will be able to see a good outcome for each of our two countries.
The pair also discussed U.S.-Iran relations, but made no mention of a resolution at the news conference.
We have a certain perspective on Iran, obviously, from where we are based, and the Secretary shared with me the American concerns on Iran. I would say, frankly, I guess both of us certainly came out much better informed of each other's concerns in that regard.
For more on this, Neha Punya joins us from New Delhi. Good evening, Neha. Was there any progress that was made on resolving trade tensions?
As far as this engagement between Secretary Pompeo and India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is concerned, the biggest takeaway, I would say, has been the de-escalation in the kind of tensions we saw play out all of the month of June. This month started with the United States revoking that preferential tariff regime for India, and India, just before Mr. Pompeo's visit, slapped retaliatory tariffs on 28 American products, which is why the atmosphere before the two met was very tense. There was a lot of speculation doing the rounds over how Mr. Pompeo would raise this particular issue. But that press statement that was jointly issued by both leaders put a lot of that speculation to rest. The message from both India and United States seems to be, while we don't have an answer immediately, while we don't have a solution to this trade spat, we are keen to downplay the issue. We're keen to work on this ahead and find some common ground. And many experts also saying that perhaps that is the biggest takeaway. While no answers were even expected in such a short meeting, the first since Mr. Modi's government won that massive mandate in May's elections, it is likely that this conversation will be carried forward. This is going to possibly take months of deliberation. You had the Indian Foreign Minister allude to this and say that we want to give greater market access to American companies. We want to discuss the tariff regime that Donald Trump is such a problem with, but there wasn't any timeline set. But if you speak to the Foreign Ministry, they'll say that is perhaps the biggest victory from today, that this wasn't escalated any further, and the two sides will continue to engage on this in the days ahead.
And Neha, we understand as well that there's been no resolution on the issue of India buying missile systems from Russia. So what was achieved in today's meeting?
Speaking of India's partnership with Russia, that was definitely brought up. In fact, that was number 3 on the agenda. Both Mr. Pompeo and Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar admitted that. There was also a comment that was made by the Foreign Minister where he explicitly said that India has a lot of relationships with many other countries, not just the United States. Many of them are of important standing. Many of them are historical relationships, and they are important for India's national interests. And in light of that, they are looking for a waiver from the United States under CAATSA, which is Countering America's Adversaries through Sanctions Act. That's really been the threat from Washington, D.C., that India, by purchasing those S-400 missiles worth $5 billion from Moscow, is at the risk of inviting sanctions. But India believes that this is essentially something it needs to procure from Moscow to ensure it has capabilities that are in par with other countries in this region. it's tough to say essentially in that way, in that sense, what the major achievements were. Like I said, there hasn't been an escalation in bilateral ties, which is very important, keeping in mind how America looks at India with respect to the Indo-Pacific definition. You've also got the other unpredictable element coming up, which is Mr. Modi's engagement with Donald Trump. So while Mr. Pompeo might have successfully downplayed these issues, put forth India's historical alliance with the United States on various issues, we don't know how that meeting will go, and that, I believe, will be the true test of where Indo-US ties currently stand.
Yes, and we'll be watching out for those, as we know you will as well. Neha Punya speaking to us from New Delhi.